Welcome to day 8 of the 30-day AI Automation Pro Challenge. The challenge where you become an AI Automation Pro in just 30 days, even if you start as a complete beginner. Yesterday, we learned how to create our own HTML-based website using ChatGPT. I walked you through the entire prompt that we used for that, and at the end, we received a HTML file and a main JavaScript file that we stored at GitHub. And today I will show you how we deploy that website to our own server and to our domain so that it can be reached via the internet. Why are we doing that? As I told many times already, the first project within that challenge will be an imaginary yacht company that I call Rosalia Yachting. And on that website, there will be a yacht configurator so that visitors can configure their yacht, and in the end, they get a nice looking image of the yacht together with the stats and the logo, and everything looks like a real yacht configuration. That will be done with a nice website that we deploy today. And then we connect it to end-to-end workflows and also a Python app, and we bring everything together. This will fill up your toolbox and prepare you perfectly to create real valuable projects for real clients. All right, so today you will do a lot at the server that you set up at day 5. And I know everything that I showed today can be a little bit confusing and feel overwhelming. I highly recommend you to go step by step, take it super easy, and whenever you have questions, reach out to me either in the comments or send me an email. I'm happy to help and assist. But trust me, I did this so many times already for myself, for different projects and also for clients, and this works. You just have to go slow, step by step, and in the end, it will turn out perfectly fine. Also here, we will use ChatGPT to give us everything we need to do on the server. And we start with the prompt that I wrote to do that. And of course, you have to adjust that prompt so that it will work for you with your own domain name and also the IP address of your server. All right, guys, before we start now, one important information. I will show you now exactly how I do that, and you can follow along by also doing that in ChatGPT. But I will also provide you all the bashes that I used as download in the resource hub at challenge.germanaicreator.com. So if you encounter any problems, it is not working for you, maybe ChatGPT is delivering you something else, or you have just no idea what is happening, just head over to the resource hub and use my personal bashes. And then you just take them, you show them to ChatGPT and tell it to adjust it to your domain name, to your IP address, and then you can copy exactly what I did. But I recommend you to test it out also with ChatGPT so that you get familiar with working with ChatGPT, because you can solve anything with ChatGPT. And with that being said, let's get started. So let's begin with having a look at the prompt that we will use now so that ChatGPT can tell us exactly what we need to do at the server to get our website running. We will use that prompt now. Now that you created the website and it's JavaScript for me, I need you to help me setting up my server so we get it running. The overall goal is to host the website on my cloud server, deploy it to the domain, then the domain that I bought, rosaliayachts.com, and here you switch out that domain name, of course, with your domain. And later combine it with a Flask app running on the same server and a end-to-end workflow running in a repo cloud account. So here I just give it again the entire context, the big picture, what we want to do. And the only thing that you need to do at that point is just switch out the domain name with your own domain. Here's what I need. Give me all the bashes, scripts and configuration files that I need to deploy the website to the domain rosaliayachts.com, hosted on my cloud server, and then here the IP address of your cloud server. Also, this is a number that you have to switch out with your IP address. Where do you find that? If you log into Vultr in your account, in your dashboard, you find the IP address. Then we also did this already. I already set up the two DNS name records, A record at pointing to then the IP address, and C name record www pointing to rosaliayachts.com. And also here you have to switch out the IP address and the name of your domain. Give me all the bashes to create these folders and to set up the right permissions. So from here to here, I tell it now which folders I want on my server, where we locate the different files, the main website, the JavaScript, also the logo of the company, the hero section logo, the favicon, this is this little logo in the browser, and all the rest. How did I came up with that folder structure? This is just good practice, and I just recommend you to do the same. At one point, if you have a lot of experience and you decide to do it differently, this is also fine, but for now, just go with that folder structure. And also here, just go with names that suit your purposes. But it would also totally work if you go with these folder names. So let's go through it. Give me also the bashes to create these folders and to set up the right permissions. Permissions just means that we actually can edit within these files without having problems. The first folder is that one, OPT Rosalia. Here the Flask app will be located later, and for now the .env and virtual environment. You don't have to understand at that point what it is. I will let you know when it is time for that. All you have to know is that in that folder, the OPT folder and then /Rosalia, there will be the Python app located that we need later to create our nice image with the titles and so on. Then we want the folder var www.rosalia. Here the index.html file will be located, the actual website. Okay. Then we want the folder var www.rosalia and then /assets. Remember, also ChatGPT already mentioned the assets folder. So here we create it now. And here the main JavaScript file will be located. Then we create that folder var www.rosalia/media. Here the hero section image, the logo and favicon will be located, and they will be called yard.jpg, logo.png and favicon.png. And then the last one, var www.rosalia/yards. Here the yard images will be stored that we'll create with the n8n workflow. That workflow doesn't exist yet, but prepare it already so the images can be served out of that folder by the website when polling. Okay, what does polling mean? Polling just means that the website is trying to load an image. And later the idea is to create our yard images, store them in exactly that folder on the server, and then the website can just pull out of that folder. All right, put placeholder files in the right folders for these files: app.python, index.html, and main.javascript. So I already want just empty files, but with the correct names in the right folders. This just makes it easier to then switch out the files later. And now I instructed what I actually want as result of that prompt. Give me an entire step-by-step instruction in the right logical order, including creating a .env file. This is a file where all the so-called environment variables are stored. In our case, this will be just the domain name. A virtual Python environment, installing all needed dependencies, and let's encrypt step via Certbot for the new domain. Think of firewall configurations as well. So in here, we also have a lot. We want a virtual Python environment. And this just means that we have, as the name says, a virtual environment on our server in which we install all the software needed just for that project. And when we create another project on our server, we can completely separate these things. It sounds difficult, no worries, it will be super easy. And then in that environment, we install all needed dependencies. And dependencies are like packages in Python, our programming language. And these are just functionalities that we need for that project. So we install it in that virtual environment. And we also need that one, let's encrypt step via Certbot for the new domain. And this just means that we want to encrypt our domain. Also sounds very scary, but it is not. Maybe you already experienced that. When you go to a certain domain, when you browse in the internet, sometimes you get these warnings like the domain is not safe, it is just HTTP. And this is if the website has no HTTPS domain. And the S is the encryption. You need a so-called Let's Encrypt certificate. This is completely for free. It is also done in a couple of seconds. And I just instructed ChatGPT to also include that step so that we get this certificate and that users don't get that warning when they go to our website. Think of firewall configurations as well. Also important. We have to make sure that we can actually reach our website and that the firewall is not shutting it down so that there is no traffic. All right, we are almost done. Then we continue with that. Give me a minimalistic Nginx configuration first so we can get the Let's Encrypt certificate, and afterwards in your step-by-step process, the proper one, so everything I stated above will work, including the favicon and webhook. Nginx will be our so-called web server. And this is just the connection between our server and the internet, so to speak. I will make it easy. You don't have to understand all the details. Just think of Nginx like the intermediate between the internet and your server. And in that entire setup process of the website, remember I told you we need a Let's Encrypt certificate. We need to first deploy a minimalistic version so that we can get that certificate, and then we swap that out with the real version, and then everything works. This is all you have to know at that point. Then we are almost done. The end result should be a detailed step-by-step explanation that I can execute on, and in the end I have my website running. Every step should clearly contain the exact bashes I have to enter into the terminal. Take as much time as you need and think step by step. Alright, I know this sounds very confusing and difficult, but I think when you work with it, you will totally get what we are actually doing. At that point, just trust me that this is the typical way how to deploy a website on your own domain and your own server. And when you did this once, you see that you can easily adjust that to other domains, to other servers, and it will always work. I already did this several times, and it is just always the same process. So now we make a copy of that entire prompt. You do that too, but make sure to swap out the IP addresses and also the domain name. And if you want to go with different folder names, also switch that out. All right, I made a copy, and now I go back to the same chat that we used to create the website. Okay, you see, this is the chat that we used yesterday, and as a result, we got the index.html and also the main.javascript. Okay, so this is everything that ChatGPT created for us, and you see this is exactly the chat. Yeah, this is where we stopped yesterday, and here we paste in now the prompt of today. I paste it in. You see, this is exactly the prompt I walked you through a second ago, and now we send this out. And the idea now is that ChatGPT will create for us a step-by-step instruction what we have to paste in our server terminal to get the website running. You see, it is thinking, it is working, and yeah, it just takes a couple of seconds, and when this is done, I get back to you. All right, that worked, and as you can see, we got back a lot. ChatGPT did even more than I requested, because it also suggested down here already a first Flask app. At that point, you don't even know what that is, but no worries, we come to it. So yeah, overall, just a lot of content, and we will work with that now step by step. So I go back to the very beginning. Right here. So it basically understood exactly what I want, and here is the description, more or less summarizing up what I prompted. And we go through that now step by step, and we begin with step number 1, the basic server preparation. So the first step we have to do is logging into our server, and you already learned how to do that. On Mac, you just type command and the space key, and then you type terminal, and then you come to that point. And on Windows, I think it's a different way, but I will also make sure you have that here on the screen. All right, then we have to log in. Remember, this works with SSH space, then the username root, then the @ and then your IP address. In my case, this is 139.180.137.30. Then I hit enter. Now I have to fill in my password. Remember, when you paste it here, it won't show up. You just have to hit enter, and then you're logged in to your server. You see my server name is 30-day challenge. All right, everything looks good, and now we keep going. So now we just follow the script step by step. In the first step, we have to update and install some packages to make sure we have the right software on our server. You just make a copy of that, you go over to the terminal, you paste it in, you hit enter, and then you see it starts working, it downloads some software. It just makes sure that everything is up to date so that we can actually execute on our script. This takes a couple of seconds until everything is downloaded and installed, but I come back to you when it is done. All right, now we got that little information. It is nothing bad. You just hit here OK. Also here you just go with OK, and we are done. Root 30-day challenge. When you see that, you see everything worked and we can keep going. So now we executed the first code and now we keep going with that one. So now we install Python. So we just make a copy of that command, we paste it in, we hit enter. Also that takes a couple of seconds and you see things on the server get installed. Also here you just hit OK again and we are back to start root 30-day challenge. All right, now we have to configure the firewall. So you just take these 3 commands and we paste them in here into the server and we hit enter. All right, this is done. And now we have to check if Nginx, our web server, is running. So we paste that in and we hit enter. And this looks good. When you see active and running, you know that everything is fine at that point. Now we can move on to step number 2, where we create folders and permissions. Remember the folders that I prompted. Now we just go through it step by step. In the first step, we create these 3 folders. We just paste that in, hit enter. And when you come back to that root line, you always know that it is done. We take the next one where we will locate the app, paste it in, hit enter. Now we give the right permissions with these 2 lines, command and we, paste it in. Then we go to the next one, command C, command we, paste it in. Also that is done. So here we just give us as user the right permission so that we can actually work within these folders. And these last 2 commands are optional, but we will also do them. So I just paste that in here. And also the last one, make sure that you copy these lines without the hashtag, because this is like commented and everything that has a hashtag in front would not be like the real command, just a comment. So if you want to do that, what I recommend, you just make a copy of the line without the hashtag. All right, so this is done. And now in step number 3, something special happened. ChatGPT just reworked the entire website because there were some slight changes between my first and second prompt, especially where the images are located. And now that ChatGPT got the information where the images are actually located, it just rewrote the entire website code. You see, this is the entire HTML code again. And it did it in a way so that we can just paste it into the terminal and the entire website will be already located in the right folder. And this is what we do now. But pay attention here, because in that case, it pasted also the HTML and also the JavaScript in one command. So we have to be a little bit careful that we paste the right things here. So for the website, we just go from here and then we scroll down until, I will let you know, until that first EOF, okay? And then you see here the JavaScript begins. So we make a copy of that first part. Then we go to the server terminal, command we paste the entire thing in and you just hit enter, okay? And now the entire website got adjusted and also stored on our server. After this is done, you just hit enter and then you see that line again. And then you can continue with the main JavaScript. So you just copy that from here until the bottom, the end of the JavaScript. Where is it? Until here, the next EOF. Pay attention that you don't paste the rest. And we paste that in, command we, and we hit enter again. And we hit enter one more time and we are back to that. All right, now we put placeholder files in our media folder as I requested for the hero section image, the logo and the favicon. This just makes it easier to swap out the files later, as you will see. So you just paste that, you hit enter, this is also done. And that last step we skip for now because it already gave us a placeholder for our Flask app, but we don't do that at that point. I want to show you first what is a Flask app, how do you build it, and then we will do that. So just skip that step here in case also your prompt came up with that. All right, then we come to the Python virtual environment. Remember the virtual environment in which we can install certain packages. Also here, we just make a copy, we paste it in. Then we install certain packages, Python packages within that virtual environment. This also takes a couple of seconds. If these things get downloaded, and yeah, most of the time this just takes about 30 seconds, 60 seconds until it is done. All right, I got a little error because somehow the internet connection was lost. So I will just run these two lines again. In case you also experienced that, just do the same. Let's try it again. All right, and this time it worked. All right, then we keep going with these lines of code, paste them in here, hit enter, this is also done, and then we deactivate or leave the virtual environment again, and we are back to 30-day challenge. All right, as I told you earlier, we will work with two different versions of that Nginx configuration. Now we just paste in a minimalistic version, we get the Let's Encrypt certificate, and then later we swap it out with the real one. So all you do is you make a copy from here to here with Command and C. You go over to your terminal, you paste it in, you hit enter, and this is also done. And now we enable that configuration and we test it. So we make a copy of these three lines, we paste it, and we hit enter. All right, syntax is okay, test is successful. So if you see these two lines, everything looks good. And now in step number 6, we try to obtain the certificate. Sometimes this fails, then we have to rework and configure it a little bit, but most of the time it works right away. So we just make a copy of that line and we paste it in here. We hit enter. Again, some stuff gets installed on the server. We hit enter again. Yes, that's fine. All right, looking good. And now we work with that line of code. Here, it is important that you make sure that this is your actual domain name, okay? And that here there is an email that you control. Remember, in the very first prompt where we created the website, I already entered my personal email. Because of that, it already remembered that and used the email here. Just work with any email that you control. So we make a copy of that line. And now we paste it in down here and we hit enter. And now we try to obtain the so-called Let's Encrypt certificate for the domain www.rosaliayards.com. This takes a couple of seconds, and if everything works, we get the certificate. This looks fantastic. You see, successfully received certificate. That means we have now the Let's Encrypt certificate for our website so that it can be reached with HTTPS. This means it is encrypted and safe. All right, so when you are at that point already, congratulations, everything is fine. Then we can check again with that line, Command C, we paste it in, we hit enter, active and running, everything is fine. All right, and now here in step number 7, we replace the Nginx configuration. Now replace the server block with a tuned version, HTTP to HTTPS redirect, full HTTPS server. Certbot likely already created a 443 server with SSL certificate lines and so on and so on. As I said, you don't fully have to understand what is happening here. It is basically just the configuration of the so-called web server that is forwarding everything that is coming over the browser to our server. And we need that so that our website will work. So what you do now is you take everything from here until here, make a copy, and you go over to your terminal and you paste that in, hit enter. And now we replace the placeholder Nginx configuration with the real one. Then we test it again. If everything is fine, we paste it in, hit enter. Test is successful, syntax is okay. When you see that, you know everything is fine at that point. All right, results so far. Now it tells me that we can already test out our website. And of course, we have to switch out our placeholder files. And this is what we do now. We switch out the placeholder files. All right, and for that, I recommend to work with a tool called CyberDuck. CyberDuck allows you to log into your server, and then you can just switch out files like you do it also in any other folder on your computer. So you get CyberDuck, it's for free, just install it on your computer and you click to open connection. Then you select here SSH. For username, you go with root. And up here, you paste your IP address, and down here, you paste your password. And then you hit connect. And now you can work on your server like on a normal folder on your computer. So you go here to the base folder of the server, and then in a second, you see all the different folders. And now we go to var www. And you see here is the Rosalia folder. We click on it and here are all the assets and the images, and we just have to switch them out now with the actual files. All right, and I already prepared these images. I want to show you what I did. We have here a nice yacht image, a JPEG, okay. We have a logo.png, exactly that one. And we also have a little favicon. This is the little icon that will show up in the browser. So how did I create these images? You already know that image. I did it with our first n8n workflow. Then I did that with ChatGPT, and I also did that with ChatGPT. And then something important, I used a service called Swoosh to just make these images smaller, resize them, because for your website, you want as little data as possible so that the website is loading fast. So this is the website, and I recommend you to also make your images just smaller. You can just go here, drop any image. I show you real quick how I did it. You see, I just loaded here the big yacht image. It's pretty big. And then you can just go here to resize, and I just recommend you to go here with 1200. You see, then the resolution is already a little bit worse, but as we just will display it like that, we don't need the full size. And you can go down here, browser JPEG, and then you can even compress it more so that the file gets very, very small. You see, when you display it in this size, there's no difference, but the size now is way, way less. It is just 148 kilobytes, and before that it was, I think, 1.3 megabytes. So this is a huge difference. And do the same with your logo and also with your favicon. Make the logo about 200 times 200 pixel and the favicon something like 20 times 20 pixel, and you're good to go. All right, so these are the files, and now we just have to put them into the right folders. I close them, and then we go to media. And you see here are already our files. So we just take the yacht, the logo, and the favicon, and we pull it over. And because of that, I like to work with placeholder files, because then you can automatically double check if you used the right names. You see, now it says there are already 3 files with that name, and you just say continue, and then they get switched out. You see, it was 0 kilobytes, and now it is our actual image. All right, we can close that. We can also close that. And now our files are switched out. Remember, our main website and also our main JavaScript was already created by the ChatGPT instruction. But if you want to see that, we have here the index.html. So this is our actual website. And when we go to assets, we have our main JavaScript. You see, it's also already located here. And now we can test out the website. So I just enter https rosalia-yachts.com. We hit enter, and here is the website. Guys, this worked fantastic. As you can see, we have here our image of the yacht. We have even the favicon in the browser. And yeah, the overall design is exactly as I expected that. We have a nice font that actually looks pretty classy, and everything is how I wanted that. We have here our yacht configurator where we can select the length, we can give it a name, we have the description here, customer name, customer email, and then we can click here, create my yacht. And for now, it just used the image from up here for the configurator, but this is already fine for now. We will connect that later to N8N and to our Flask app. Also here in the About section, of course, there could be a little bit more content, but this is not the main purpose here. I just want to show you how you can deploy your own website. And now you can easily just customize that by feeding the code back to ChatGPT, tell it to change it a little bit. And this is how you can deploy a website super fast. As you see, also the buttons work. When we go here to About, it jumps exactly to that section. And if you go to Yacht Creator, it jumps exactly to the Yacht Creator. Perfect. Down here we have the contact. We can click on the mail and then it is already starting a mail. We have a random address here in Miami. Everything looks fine. The only thing that is not working yet is here the logo. I will just find out real quick why the logo is not here and then I come back to you. I will just do it with ChatGPT. I just go with that prompt. It all works fine, but the logo is not showing up in the header. In which folder should I place it and under which name? Let's see what ChatGPT is telling us. All right, it basically told me that it just did not use the actual image name. So we just have to adjust it a little bit. You see, it is suggesting two options and I will just tell it to integrate option B to the website. So we just go up again to exactly that part and we make a copy of exactly that until the end of the website. Make sure you don't copy the JavaScript. Then we go down here and we say adjust that command so that I can switch out the entire website with logo option B included. Then we paste in the entire command, we hit enter, and now I hopefully get back the entire reworked website and then we also see our logo. All right, here it is. We have the entire command and now reworked and hopefully we see our logo now. So we just make a copy of the entire thing until the very bottom, Command C. We go back to the terminal and I just paste in the entire thing and we hit enter. I hit enter again. All right, this looks good. And when we go back to the browser and I use now Command Shift and R, it just reloads the entire website. And here is our logo, Rosalia Yachts. Everything looks fantastic. The rest also is the same. Our buttons are working exactly as we wanted. And this is how you deploy your very first website just with ChatGPT. All right, guys, this is it. This was day 8 of the 30-day AI Automation Pro Challenge. You learned how to build your very own website with ChatGPT and then also how to instruct ChatGPT to tell you exactly what to do to deploy it on your own server and your own domain. I know this is a big chapter. It is very confusing sometimes, but you will see that it is actually more or less always the same. If you encountered any problems, please let me know in the comments, reach out to me via email. I'm happy to assist. And again, I also provide you a PDF with exactly my bashes and commands. So in case that your solution didn't work, you can just take my bashes and adjust them to your personal needs to make it work for you. But I also wanted to show you live how I do that so that you see there is not more. This is it. You can do everything with ChatGPT. There is no magic trick. This is exactly how I work, how I did it. But again, if you have any problems, just head over to the resources at challenge.germanaicreator.com, download my bashes, just make sure you paste them to ChatGPT and make it ChatGPT exchange the domain name and the IP addresses and so on, and then you can just do what I did. All right, this is it for day 8. We see us tomorrow at day 9 of the 30-day AI Automation Pro Challenge. Cheers, Dom.